Hi guys, today we're going to be working primarily in the vegetable garden. We've got a few things to get done, but nothing crazy. It's actually looking really good and full in there. I love this time of year. It's like the time of abundance when everything is just producing. But I do want to do a little bit of harvesting. I want to harvest some carrots and pole beans. Then we have those 3 little pepper plants in that little raised bed at the end. They're not doing well, they're struggling, they're starting to turn yellow. So I want to pop them out of that bed, put them in our pepper bed over here behind me and see how they respond because they're not liking that bed for some reason. Then I'm gonna come in and fertilize everything. I'm also gonna fertilize our citrus trees. We've got a Meyer lemon and a thornless key lime. And then lastly, I've got those 2 fig cuttings from when we repotted the fig tree and I wanted to train it into like a single trunk. I took the other trunk and cut it in 2, put it in some water, and it sprouted roots. So now I want to get them potted up into some soil and get them growing on. We just did a full-on garden tour, so you saw the vegetable garden, but I do think in just those few days, it's actually gotten a little bit fuller. What do you guys think? Does it look like things have grown in the past few days? I think it does. So let me show you over here. Look at our pole beans. They are going crazy right now. They are just producing. Look at this. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Now, I didn't realize, but apparently pole beans can be a magnet or a trap plant for aphids, so check that out. So I kind of was considering spraying, but I realized I'm just gonna leave them. We have so many pole beans planted that if the aphids found one plant that they just all wanna migrate to, I'll just let them all have one plant. I'll keep an eye on the rest, and if I do start to see any infestations, I'll take care of that. I can just spray them with a hose or something, but I'll just let them have this one plant. They can all flock to it, and the rest can just be all for us. I have also noticed too, a couple of ladybugs underneath in the pole beans. So, you know, if there's ladybugs around, you know they've got to have a food source, and they love aphids. So I'm just going to let the ladybugs have their little buffet. You guys, check it out. Our cosmos are blooming. Aren't they beautiful? I love that color. And I see buds over here. It's so exciting. So this little 2x3 raised bed here on the end, this is where I planted our 3 pepper plants. And you can see they're not looking too happy. The Jalafuego has got some yellowing on its leaves. The Thai chili and the Armageddon are looking pretty yellow. And I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if maybe this is holding on to too much water, but they do get regular watering and they have been fertilized in the past, so not too sure. But I want to pop these out and move them to the pepper bed over there. But first we have to harvest. So we'll harvest our pole beans and carrots first. That'll clear out some room in the raised bed so we can transplant our peppers. Then we'll get to fertilizing and then repotting our fig cuttings. Oh, check it out, you guys. I told you there was ladybugs here. Our carrots are over here. Let me just remove this little netting again. So I've got 2 sections of carrots, one here and one over here. I'm gonna leave this section alone and just harvest this right here. And you can see I did not thin these out when I planted them. So I don't know if we're gonna get anything significant or if we're just gonna end up with little tiny nubs. Let's pull one. Yeah, see? We're harvesting baby carrots. But I should have thinned them because I've got one carrot over here that just kind of, I think I dropped a seed, but look how big this one is already. Look at that. I'm just gonna leave it be. Okay, I'm gonna start harvesting so I can transplant our peppers, then I'll come back around and show you how they look in their new home. All right, guys, here's our harvest. Doesn't that look good? So we've got a couple dozen of the pole beans and they've really sized up. Look at that. And then our carrots are in a whole bunch of different sizes. We've got a couple of little like baby carrots. This is like 3 inches long, but we did get a couple decent sized ones. And then, you know, this is the biggest one, is like 1.5 or 1.25. And then the rest are just little itty bitties, but they're all still edible. So we'll probably be having roasted carrots and green beans for dinner. Probably tomorrow night. We'll get them all cleaned up and roast them. We'll probably saute these in a little garlic and olive oil. Ooh, yum. And then we transplanted our 3 pepper plants into this raised bed that we have our Jalafuegos and Armageddons. And you can see that these are all thriving. We just harvested our Jalafuegos and made cowboy candy. So I'm hoping that they will like this spot a lot more and we'll start to see some more production. I mean, the Jalafuegos do have, this still has like a couple little itty bitties along with the Thai chili, but the Armageddon, yeah, not so much. So we got them all transplanted. I went ahead and fertilized this entire bed. I used tomato tone because I didn't have garden tone, and then just got everything all watered in. And we just harvested, again, like I said, we just harvested our jalapenos, and look at this. Here we go again. These plants are crazy. Okay, now that we're done harvesting and transplanting our peppers, we can move on to fertilizing. Here's my buckets of fertilizer. This is what I use to fertilize the peppers with, tomato tone. Typically, I would use garden tone. This is a general all-purpose garden fertilizer, but I'm currently out of it, so tomato tone is fine. They're actually pretty similar. This one just has a lower nitrogen content and a higher calcium content, which helps with fruiting and blooming. This one, a little bit more nitrogen, but again, either one is fine. If you needed one, I would probably say garden tone. And I've also got citrus tone down here for our lemons and limes. And then we're also going to be fertilizing the blueberries with berry tone. Again, these are all specific to what they say, tomatoes, citrus trees, berries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, and then your general all-purpose garden tone. If you were to get any one of these for general all-purpose, garden tone. And when we fertilized in the spring, I went into greater detail about all of the different fertilizers and step by step. I'll put a link in the description box to that video if you want to check it out. But it's pretty simple. We're just going to be taking little handfuls and just putting it around the plant, scratching it in, and I may water them in. We're supposed to be getting rain later on today, so I probably won't. But if not, I'm due to water tomorrow morning anyway, so one way or another, they will get watered in. Let's start with berry tone since we're right over here by the blueberry beds. Now you can see I've got the Sweetheart blueberry bush that is struggling a little bit. I've got a lot of the leaves that are turning red. I don't know if this branch is dying or not, but it is pretty stressed out. When I did a search online to see what the cause could be, it was a whole bunch of things. And it's like WebMD for gardening. It gave me a whole list of things that it could be: overwatering, underwatering, environmental stress factors, not enough sunlight, too much sun, fungal disease, pests, a whole bunch of stuff. I'm thinking that maybe it just needs a little bit of fertilizer and a little bit more consistent watering. And I'll just keep an eye on it and see how it goes. But that's what I think, because overall, the plant does look healthy. It's just a couple of branches that are having a little bit of stress. So I'm going to try with the fertilizer first and more consistent watering. I haven't been the best at it, I'll admit it. And then I'll keep an eye on it. And if I think it's something else, we'll just address it later. All I do is I take a little handful and just put it right around the plant, no closer than 3 to 4 inches from the trunk. And then I just kind of scratch it all in so it kind of gets covered up a little. And I purposely do this because I don't want shoey to come in here and start nibbling on it, because he will nibble on it. The beds that have insect netting, I'm not going to worry about scratching it in because Shuey can't get into them. But the ones that are open, I will scratch it in and keep an eye on him when we're out here, because he is drawn to espoma. And then we'll water it in, or we'll let Mother Nature water it in, and if not, I'll water it in tomorrow. And that's pretty much all there is. So I'm just gonna go around, do all of the blueberries, then we'll hit the citrus trees, and then we'll just make our way through the entire vegetable garden. All right, guys, we got all of our fertilizing done. I'll show you in a couple beds what I did, but it doesn't look any different. If anything, it just looks like I fluffed up the soil or the mulch. So all I did was just come in, scrape the mulch back, put a little bit of tomato tone all around the plant, and then just cover it back up with mulch. Mother Nature will take care of watering it in. If not, I'll do it in the morning. But that's pretty much what I did to all the plants, all the beds, everywhere. So we came in, fertilized some of the tomatoes, our jade beans. This is our pickling cucumber. And for these, all I did was just come in with a handful and just sprinkle it all around. Didn't really worry about scratching it in. Same thing with our zucchinis, our melons, our cantaloupes, and our cucumber. I do want to show you guys one thing though. Look at this. Check this out. Oh, that's a cantaloupe. Oh my gosh, isn't that exciting? It's getting big. And there's another one over here. Little tiny one in here. And I think there's a couple more starting. I don't know, I want to stay away because I can hear the bees buzzing. But yeah, pretty much everything. It's just a little bit of fertilizer, scratched it all in. Pretty simple. As far as how often I'm fertilizing, I've just been following the instructions on the back of the bag. And I think it says anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks you can reapply. It's an organic fertilizer. It's not a hot fertilizer, so it's not going to burn the roots or anything. So I've been trying to stay on 4 weeks, and so far I've been doing pretty good. All right, so now we can move on to our last project. That's potting up our fig cuttings. So we've got our 2 fig cuttings here in water. I've had them in water for a few weeks now, and they have started to root out. I did put a tiny little bit of liquid fertilizer in the water, which is why it looks a little discolored. But you can see we've got roots here. Look at that. Nice, healthy roots. So I think what I want to do now is take some potting soil. I've got some organic potting soil here. I've got 2 containers. These are like 3.5 inch, but they are a little deeper. And just fill them up with soil and get these potted up in some fresh soil and let their roots get acclimated to soil and get them growing. All right, guys, we got them potted up in fresh soil and watered in. Don't they look good? Now, I'm sure you noticed when I was potting them up, I didn't add any starter fertilizer to the soil. The soil has more than enough nutrition on its own to sustain these plants, especially because these are cuttings, they're bare roots, so they will be really happy in here. And again, there's more than enough nutrition in this fresh soil to feed them and get them to grow on. I may come in a few weeks and give them a little dose of liquid fertilizer, but I think they'll be really happy in their new home. Right here on the kitchen porch, they'll get fresh air, sunlight, and they have room now to stretch their roots and really get in there and root in. And you guys, we are done with our workout here in the vegetable garden. Initially, I was planning on giving some attention to our houseplants, but when I saw the weather was calling for rain, I thought now's a good time to come out here and give the plants one final feeding for the season so they can pump out some more fruit. Really glad that we were able to transplant our peppers. I'm hoping that they like their new spot with the rest of the peppers in our pepper bed. So I'll keep you updated on that, and super happy that we got our fig cuttings potted up. So I'm hoping that they will thrive, and I'll keep you updated on that too. And you guys, that is it for our video today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.